The laughing at St. Jude's Cemetery. My name is Tara, and this happened in Louisiana in the summer of 2010. I was 17, and like most bored teenagers, we thought sneaking into the old St. Jude's Cemetery after midnight would be funny. There were 4 of us: me, Marcus, Jay, and Lila. We had flashlights, a bag of snacks, and the kind of stupid courage that only comes from being young. The cemetery sat on the edge of town, half swallowed by moss and oaks. The gate creaked like it hadn't moved in years. We weren't there 5 minutes before Marcus started daring everyone to take pictures near the oldest graves. Lila laughed and said, "Smile, the dead might photobomb you." We wandered until the air turned heavy, humid in a way that made breathing feel wrong. My flashlight started to dim. That's when we heard it. Laughter. Not our kind. Not nervous giggles. It came from the far row of graves, deep and soft, like someone chuckling under their breath. Jay shouted, "Who's there?" No answer. Just another laugh. Closer this time. Marcus walked toward the sound with his phone light on. He froze. "Guys," he whispered. "Somebody's standing behind that statue." I turned my light that way and saw the silhouette of a woman in a long dress, head tilted down. Her hair hung over her face, and both hands rested on the top of a headstone. Marcus said, "Ma'am, are you okay?" She lifted her head, and the face wasn't a face. The skin was grey and folded inward, like it had collapsed into itself. She opened her mouth, and the laughter came again, this time coming from everywhere at once, echoing off the stones. We ran. I dropped my flashlight. For a second, the beam spun across the ground and caught bare feet moving behind us, quick and wrong, like she was gliding. We didn't stop until we reached the fence. Marcus climbed first, but something grabbed his hoodie and yanked him backward. He screamed. Jay and I pulled him through, and his sleeve ripped clean off. The fabric smelled like stale roses and mud. We drove straight to a gas station. The attendant looked at Marcus's arm and said it was covered in handprints, grey and dusty. A week later, Marcus showed us the pictures he'd taken that night. In the first few, you could see us posing by tombstones. In the last one, the one taken before we ran, there were 5 people instead of 4. The woman stood behind us, smiling. St. Jude's is closed now. The city fenced it off after more vandals claimed to hear laughing at night. I still drive by sometimes. The gates rusted shut. You may be able to schedule a tour, but I wouldn't, if I were you. The boy at the foot of the bed. My name's Daniel, and I worked as a hospice orderly in Mississippi for 7 years. I've heard a lot of people's last words, confessions, regrets, even jokes. But one night, an old man told me something that still wakes me up sometimes. His name was Mr. Ray Harlan, 88 years old. He was dying of lung cancer and didn't have any visitors. Most nights, he'd just watch the rain through the window. But one evening, right before lights out, he asked me if I believed in hell. I told him I wasn't sure. He said, "You should be. Some things wait longer than you think." I thought he was delirious, until he said, "I can still see his face." He told me that when he was 17, back in the early 1950s, he and 3 friends used to drive through a small town outside Jackson. There was a boy there, about 12, black, always walking home from the corner store. They used to yell things at him, throw cans, laugh. One night they followed him. The story he told after that, I wish I could forget it. He said they grabbed the boy near the river, said they just wanted to scare him, but the boy tried to run, so he panicked, picked up a rock and hit him in the back of the head. He fell and didn't get up. They all rolled him into the water and left. No one ever really looked or even tried to find out who did it. Ray said his friends all died young, accidents, sickness, but he'd lived a long time. Too long, he said. Then he looked at me and whispered, "He comes every night now." The boy, with this evil smile, like he knows where I'm going. I asked what he meant, and he pointed to the end of his bed. "He stands right there," he said. Wet clothes, mud on his feet, same grin, just watching. I told him he was safe, that it was probably dreams from the medication. He grabbed my arm so hard it left a bruise and said, "You can't tell the difference when you're this close to dying." Around 3 in the morning, his heart monitor started to spike. I rushed in. He was sitting up, staring at the foot of the bed, whispering, "I'm sorry, I'm sorry." His eyes were wide open, fixed on something I couldn't see. And then he screamed, once, and flatlined. The next morning, I went to strip the bed. The nurse I worked with that night said she heard someone humming in the hallway, childlike, before the alarm went off. A tune like a lullaby. I still work in hospice today. Sometimes I think about him. I think about that boy too. And I wonder if hell really waits, or if sometimes it comes to collect early. The sickness. My name's Dr. Martin Ellis, and this happened in Alabama in the spring of 2009. I was still doing home visits for families in rural areas, mostly elderly patients or kids too sick to travel. One evening, I got a call from a woman who sounded desperate. She said her 8-year-old son had a fever that wouldn't break and had started talking strange. I almost didn't go. It was after midnight, but something in her voice told me she was terrified. The house sat alone at the end of a dirt road, half hidden by trees. When I knocked, no one answered. Then the door creaked open by itself. The woman appeared from the shadows, pale, shaking, and whispered, "He's upstairs." The boy's room smelled of, I believe, burnt rosemary and medicine. He was sitting on the bed, knees pulled to his chest, staring at the wall. I said, "Hey there, buddy," but he didn't turn around. When I touched his shoulder, he said something, not in English, in a deep, gravelly voice that did not belong to a child. His mother started crying. She said he'd been speaking that way since the fever began. I took out my stethoscope. His pulse was erratic, heart racing, yet his body temperature was normal. Then he looked at me, slowly, and smiled. His pupils were blown wide, and his voice came out in a whisper. He said, "You shouldn't be here." I asked who he was. The boy tilted his head back until it almost touched the wall and laughed, a harsh, gurgling sound that didn't stop until he began choking. The lights flickered. The air grew heavy, like pressure before a storm. I grabbed my bag to get a sedative, but all my glass vials had shattered. The boy's voice changed again, several voices at once, overlapping. One of them said my full name, even though I'd never told them who I was. I told the mother to leave the room and call for help, but the phone downstairs was dead. When I turned back, the boy was standing on the bed, eyes rolled white, whispering over and over, "We were here before you." Then, just as suddenly, he collapsed, silent, still breathing. I carried him downstairs, but by the time we reached the kitchen, he opened his eyes again and said in his normal voice, "Is it over?" I told her to take him to the hospital first thing in the morning. When I called later to check, no one answered. The line was disconnected. 2 weeks later, I drove back. The house was empty, windows boarded, mailbox gone. The neighbor told me the family moved overnight. He said the night before they left, he heard a child's voice in the woods calling for help, but when he went outside, no one was there. I still make house calls sometimes, but every time a parent says their child's talking strange, I remember that sick little boy. And I pray it's only the fever this time. The black-eyed children. My name's Randy, and this happened outside Flagstaff, Arizona in 2015. I was renting a small cabin off the highway. No neighbors for a mile, just desert wind and the hum of power lines. Nights out there were pitch black. You could hear coyotes howling clear across the ridge. One evening, just after 10 p.m., I was reading when I heard knocking on the front door. Not polite, steady, deliberate. I opened the curtain expecting maybe a lost traveler. Instead, I saw 2 kids, maybe 10 or 11, standing on the porch. A boy and a girl. They were dressed old-fashioned, plain jeans, faded hoodies. The boy said, "Sir, can we come in? Our parents will be here soon." His voice was flat, like he'd practiced every word. If you're enjoying this real nightmare, please like and subscribe for more. I asked where they lived. He didn't answer, just repeated, "Please let us in." My stomach tightened. The porch light flickered, and that's when I noticed their eyes. No whites, no color, just solid black, like ink. I stepped back and locked the door. The girl started to cry, except there were no tears, just the sound, high and hollow. They both pressed their hands against the glass. The room temperature dropped so fast I could see my breath. The boy said, "Please say we can come in." I grabbed my phone. No signal. Every app froze on the same grey screen. Then the power cut out. All I could see was the pale outline of their faces through the window. They whispered together, and I swear I heard 2 voices overlapping, like static layered over words. "Please, let us in." I didn't move. After maybe a minute, the crying stopped. When the power came back, the porch was empty. But 2 wet handprints were still on the glass, small, perfect black residue around the edges. I called the sheriff the next morning. He said I wasn't the first to report children asking to come inside. He told me, "Next time, don't talk to them. Just turn off the lights and wait." It's been years, but every few months I'll wake to faint knocking. 3 taps. A pause. 3 more. I don't check anymore. I just say a prayer and go right back to sleep. Thank you for watching. Real Nightmares.